We'll call the meeting to order at 7:04. And we'll do Pledge of Allegiance.
Coop, say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wait, does that do this too?
You do.
Could you take attendance, Mrs. Hillis?
Okay, Mrs. Castle?
Here.
Mr. Hirakawa?
Here.
Mr. Lanacey?
Hello.
Mrs. Mack?
Here.
Mr. Strang?
Here.
Okay, we'll move on to the annual organizational meeting.
Oh, yeah, we didn't.
Item number 1, admission of oath to newly elected board members.
And we have no new board members that are
Okay.
not already
Yep.
sworn in.
Second place first.
Moving on to number 2, election of Board of Education officers. First one would be president of the board.
I'd like, is it open for nominations?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to nominate Andy Lanacey for president of the board.
Second.
Okay.
Discussion. Do you want to be?
He already said yes in an email, so.
Oh, okay. Did I miss an email?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Well, you'll get to say your yes next.
And if I say no, no.
And any other nominations before I do the roll call? Okay, Mrs. Castle?
Yes.
Mr. Hirakawa?
Yes.
Mr. Lanacey?
Yes.
Mrs. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Strang?
Yes. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Doing it.
Trying.
Oath of office.
Okay. Okay, moving on to vice president. And up the nominations.
I'd like to nominate Darcy as vice president.
Person back.
Yes, sorry.
Second it.
Okay.
Okay, any other nominations before the roll? Okay, Mrs. Castle?
Yes.
Mr. Hirakawa?
Yes.
Mr. Lanacey?
Yes.
Mrs. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Strang?
Yes.
Thank you. It's such a hard job being vice president, I'm gonna tell you.
She also did very well.
But see, Andy knows you've got his back.
That's right. Always.
Oh.
Okay, moving on to section 3, appointment of officers. We'll take this as a consent agenda unless somebody has some objection to that. Okay. First being clerk of the Board of Ed for Sharon Hillis, a stipend of $4,730 annually. District treasurer, Mary Ellen Agrizzano, at a stipend of $12,538 annually. Deputy treasurer, Dr. Thomas Reardon, with no stipend. Tax collector, Denise Fitzgerald, stipend of $4,639 annually. And internal claims auditor, Thomas Martin, with a stipend of $4,542 annually. Somebody make a motion?
I'm so moved.
Need a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Okay. Mrs. Castle?
Yes.
Mr. Hirakawa?
Yes.
Mr. Landsey?
Yes.
Mrs. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Strain?
Yes. Moving on to other appointments. Section 4, school physician will be Riverview Pediatric, yearly appointment at $50 per hour. School attorney, Gervin and Verlazzo, PC. This is the first year of a 3-year contract. Central treasurer, extra classroom activity account. Denise Fitzgerald with no stipend. The attendance officer, Catherine Fazioli, yearly appointment with no stipend. Independent auditor, Raymond G. Pruser, CPA PC, second year of a 3-year contract at $13,200. Record access officer, Sharon Hillis, no stipend. Records management officer, also Sharon Hillis with no stipend. The asbestos LEA designee, Neil Benassi, no stipend. Pesticide notification officer, Neil Benassi, no stipend. Purchasing agent, Dr. Thomas Reardon, yearly appointment, no stipend. And financial advisors, the Fiscal Advisors Incorporated, yearly at $145 per hour. I need a motion.
A motion?
Second.
Any discussion?
I just have one question. Do we have to, for the attorney, do we have to indicate the amount there for the retainer?
We do not. I don't think we have in the past.
Okay.
It's just been,
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay.
Mrs. Castle?
Yes.
Mr. Hirakawa?
yes.
Mr. Landsey?
Yes.
Mrs. Mack? Yes. Mr. Strain?
Yes.
I can add the retainer if you would like to the minutes. I can add the retainer to the minutes if you would like.
No, I just, we had other dollar amounts, so I just didn't know. So
No, it's a good question.
if it doesn't have to be there, fine.
Okay. Moving on to section 5, designations. This will also be a consent agenda. The official bank depository, M&T Bank. Our regular meeting dates, July 6, 2017, August 24th, 2017, September 21st, 2017, October 19th, 2017, November 16th, 2017, December 21st, 2017, January 18th, 2018, February 15th, 2018, March 15th, 2018, April 19th, 2018, May 17th, 2018, and June 14th, 2018. And our official newspaper will be the Troy Record. Need a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or discussion?
Just to point out, each falls typically on the third Thursday, I believe, except you'll notice that August 24th is the 4th. We figured that was always put in so that we had any last summer hirings. And then June 14th, you'll notice, is the second Thursday, but that's because graduation conflicts with the 21st. So that one is off cycle, the last meeting. So just for record.
Okay.
Mrs. Castle?
Yes.
Mr. Hirakawa?
Yes.
Mr. Landsey?
Yes.
Mrs. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Strain?
Yes. Section 6, authorizations, also a consent agenda. To certify payrolls, Dr. Thomas Reardon. Conferences, conventions, payment approval, workshop attendance, Dr. Thomas Reardon. To establish petty cash funds, $50 in the main office, $75 in the business office. Mary Ellen Agrizzano in the business office, Kathy Fazioli in the main office. Designation of signatures on checks, Mary Ellen Agrizzano. Alternate designee for signatures on checks, Dr. Thomas Reardon. Budget transfers on chief school officers approval, Dr. Thomas Reardon. Superintendent to apply for grants in aid, state and federal, Dr. Thomas Reardon. Need a motion?
A motion.
And a second? Second.
Where?
And discussion? Questions?
Mrs. Castle?
Yes.
Mr. Hirakawa?
Yes.
Mr. Landsey?
Yes.
Mrs. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Strain?
Yes. Section 7, official undertakings, bonds. also be a consent agenda. District Clerk, Sharon Hillis. District Treasurer, Mary Ellen Agrizzano. Deputy Treasurer, Dr. Thomas Reardon. District Tax Collector, Denise Fitzgerald. Central Treasurer Activity Funds, Denise Fitzgerald. Internal Claims Auditor, Thomas Martin. And all other persons and positions required by law or regulation to be bonded. Need a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Like that.
Second.
Questions? Discussion?
Okay.
Okay.
Mrs. Castle? Mr. Hirakawa?
Yes.
Mr. Lancy?
Yes.
Mrs. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Strang?
Yes.
Section 8, other items, also a consent agenda. Readoption of all policies and codes of ethics in effect during the previous year. The establishment of mileage reimbursement rate would be the IRS established rate. Acting Superintendent, Dr. Mary Yotis, at $125 a day, in addition to principal salary upon assignment. Driver physicals and drug screening, St. Peter's Health Partners. It's a yearly contract through DOT physicals, $110, drug screening, $75. And the establishment of school breakfast, lunch, snack rates for 2017-18. Breakfast will be $1.55, lunch will be $2.85, and for adults it'll be $2.27 for breakfast and $4.05 for lunch. Set rates for substitutes, substitute teachers, teaching assistants. Certified will be $90, non-certified will be $75 per day. Substitute teacher aide, $75 per day. Substitute custodian, $12.50 per hour. Substitute nurse, $75 per day. Substitute food service helper, $10.40 per hour. Substitute recess aide, $10.40 per hour. Substitute clerical, $12.50 per hour. Substitute bus driver, $14 per hour. I need a motion.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Questions, discussion?
Just to point out, that's okay. You'll notice the non-certified rate went up by $5, and some of the rates were adjusted to reflect the new wage pieces coming in, so that's why they went up a little bit.
Okay.
Mrs.
Yes.
Castle? Mr. Hirakawa?
Yes.
Mr. Lancy?
I'm going to abstain because my wife is one of these positions.
Okay. Mrs. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Strang?
Yes.
Additional appointments, also consent agenda. CSE, CPSE Committee, yearly appointment, no additional stipend. Committee shall include Kimberly Herzl-Betz, Kathy Vale, Stephanie Carbone, Dr. Mary Otis, TBA Advanced Therapy for OT, TBA Advanced Therapy for PT, Amy Murphy, Wynantskill Union Free School District teachers, Ann Hansen of Rensselaer County, and all ASEPs county-approved providers. Section 504, Compliance Officer, yearly appointment with no stipend, Dr. Mary Otis. Impartial hearing officers, it's a yearly appointment, $40 per hour. And there's quite a long list, so I'm not going to read all them.
Good call.
Title IX Compliance Officer, Amy Murphy, no stipend. Legislative Liaison for NYSBA and CAPSBA, Eric Strang, no stipend. Homeless Liaison Coordinator, Amy Murphy, no stipend. Special Ed Surrogate Parents, Marcia Anderson and Kenneth Anderson, with no stipend. Special Education Preschool Programs, Capital District Beginnings, Early Childhood Education Center, Story Place Preschool, Unity Sunshine Preschool, Achievements, Spotted Zebra Preschool. The Dignity for All Coordinators, Amy Murphy and Kim Herzl-Betz, that's with no stipend. The Audit Committee, Sally Luletta, Andrew Lancy, Darcy Mack, those positions also have no stipend. And the Chief Emergency Officer, Dr. Thomas Reardon, and that has no stipend.
Nice title.
I know.
Yeah.
Need a motion?
What's that?
I'll motion.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Questions?
Mrs. Castle?
Yes.
Mr. Hirakawa?
Yes.
Mr. Lancy?
Yes.
Mrs. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Strang?
Yes. Okay. Section 10, instructional contracts, also a consent agenda. With the Brunswick School District, $11,679 for general education, actual cost for special education. With the East Greenbush School District, $8,800 for general education, actual cost for special education. The Avon Park School District, $8,005 general education, actual cost for special education. With the Troy School District, it's to be determined by the state set rate for general education and also for special education. Little Red tuition rate to attend the Wynantskill Union Free School District 2015 through 2018. Excuse me, the 2017-2018 rate will be for K through 6, $6,832. For 7th and 8th grade, $7,554. And for special ed, it would be the state set rate. And tuition for others to attend the Wynantskill Union Free School District shall be set by the New York State set tuition rates.
Should be K-8.
K-8.
I think there's an additional line in there that didn't print.
Need a motion?
A motion.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Mrs. Castle?
Yes.
Mr. Hirakawa?
Yes.
Mr. Lancy?
Yes.
Mrs. Mack? Mr. Strang?
Yes.
And last but not least, section 11, other, by consent agenda. We have the code of conduct, the district safety plan, and the athletic handbook. Need a motion?
Moved.
Second? Any questions?
And they're available, right?
Yep.
Okay, Mrs. Castle?
Yes.
Mr. Hirakawa?
Yes.
Mr. Lancy?
Yes.
Mrs. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Strang?
Yes.
Okay. 1.3 on the agenda, review of agenda and any additions to the agenda. Do we have any additions that not aware of?
No additions.
Okay. 1.4, approval of minutes of the previous meeting. And we had one, June 15th, 2017. Someone make a motion?
Moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Questions? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Check limits.
He went straight, he didn't hit the door.
Do you want to get him? It might be dangerous out there.
Come back.
Okay.
He always comes back.
1.5, visitors and communications. Communications to the Board of Education. I didn't receive anything. Did you?
We've
No? Okay. Anybody else receive anything? No? Okay. Opportunities for the public to be heard. There's nobody?
signed up to speak.
Keep it down.
Okay. We'll have an opportunity at the end of the meeting if somebody shows up. 2.0, reports to the Board of Education. 2.1, Board of Education reports and updates. I don't think we have anything to report back on our updates right now. 2.2, District/Superintendent Program Report. Slide number 1 is capital project discussion. Think heads up?
Somebody else here for that? Great, well, thanks for having us tonight.
No?
You good?
You can pull your chair at the table.
What's that?
You can even pull your chair.
That's good. I can see everybody. So what I'll do is I'll give a quick update, as you guys did a tour, which is great, to kind of see what's going on. Next time you'll have to have hard hats, though. It's very important. Not really.
Do you break any rules?
What's that?
Do we break rules? by
Oh, yeah.
not-
Yeah. No, not when there's no construction going on. That's what I think, so.
Oh.
But in any case, we'll give you a little construction
Just going to
update.
the bathroom and coming back.
Perfect.
Little things.
Small
It's like-
victories
yeah,
there, right?
Really.
And then we'll talk a little bit about the report or the spreadsheet after that. So as you probably have seen, most of the ceilings have been removed throughout the building so they can facilitate the work above the ceilings, whether it be piping or electrical and whatnot. The HVAC removed from the computer room, and the measurements were taken down for the new computer ductwork and whatnot going back in that space. They installed a temporary wall in the gymnasium. I personally haven't seen it yet. Did you guys get down that far? Is it all the way up, or is it?
It's all the way up.
Okay.
It's sheetrock on one side.
Okay, good. It's not a fire partition, so they may only rock the side facing the gymnasium side, or is it rocked on the other?
It's rocked on the other side.
It's rocked on the other side. So they may put plywood up on the other side just because it's a little more durable for balls and whatnot. So they're running copper piping for the hot water in the first floor corridors. They'll start with the valves. We actually approved the submittal for the valves and whatnot this afternoon, so those are going to go through. Plumber will keep moving on that. They have the 4-inch electrical pipe run, or the conduit run on the first floor corridors. Light fixture removals have been pretty much completed. There's a big dumpster full of them out back there to make room for the new work. The electrical contractor will be running wire this week. They think they're going to have most of it completed in the week. And then the GC has excavated for the retaining wall, and they're working on the roadway on the side of the building going around for the fire access road here. Have you guys been in the back? Did you see the back where the big hole is basically? They basically built a ramp so that the construction vehicles can get down so they can start doing the retaining wall. As I understand it, the retaining wall blocks are on their way here, so we should be seeing those in the next week or so. They've got most of the elevations laid out for the retaining wall along the back of the building, so that's the first thing they're going to do. We got some good news today is that the soils that are existing remaining to where the foundations of the building are going to be relative to the detritus that was kind of off the back of the hill is suitable for construction, so we won't need to bring in a lot of extra soil. They'll also be able to screen and reuse some of the topsoil that they took. That's what the big pile is back there. So for reseeding areas in the lawn, they can reuse what was here, which is good. So they don't have to bring a lot of extra material to the site. They removed the garden fence. There was some, as we discussed, determination whether or not we're going to go back with the garden fence and how that's going to be configured, although it is in the contract to replace that right now. The abatement contractor is setting up their decon and their abatement. As you can see that on the back of the building, they have the door set up with the negative pressure or negative airs going on. They're going to start taking stuff out by abatement in some of the areas where we got to do new work to get in through the crawl spaces and whatnot. So that's going to start very shortly if it hasn't started already. I did see some decon set up on the lower level in the back there when we were doing a walkthrough. So that'll be hot and heavy in the not too distant future. They obviously you can see the main entry walk. They've chopped that up. They're doing some of the drainage work out there. They'll be starting to put the concrete back. It will be ready obviously before school starts. They've got a little bit of time there obviously, but that's on their list to have things complete. And now that things are kind of really rolling, we'll be coordinating and compiling the construction schedules from all the contractors and the primes, getting those a little bit more hard-lined now that they've got kind of the material and workers on site. So we should have that from the GC, which is kind of running the ship by Monday, and then we'll kind of compile the rest of it and put that together. We'll have that hopefully ready for you before the next board meeting. We'll email that out to everybody and so you guys can take a look at it, know what to expect. So that's kind of where we're at with the overall construction. Things are cranking along. Everybody's playing nice in the sandbox right now as far as the contractors go, which is always a good sign. These guys have all worked together in the past, so or worked in and around each other in the past, so everybody's well acquainted. Relative to transitioning, relative to the spreadsheet that we have ongoing, we've been continuously updating this after each and every meeting. As I had suggested in the during our last discussion, any of the items that we can go through and we can talk through and check off the list, as it were, relative to the orange items and then also the yellow items, keeps the ball rolling a little bit more readily. If there are additional information needed to make some of those decisions, we're happy to provide it. But if we can talk through some of those items and sign off on those, then we're all the better for it. So if you would like, we can kind of start at the front and kind of go through line by line, and we'll just hit the orange and the yellow items, as it were. Okay. So item number A9, this is the refinishing and restriping of the gymnasium floor. This is an item that we can put off. We know we got a lot of work in there if we still need to. We had scheduled that to pull out of the VE list, But again, it's one of those items that could be, it could be done out of general funds for routine maintenance and operations, or if there's money left over at the end of the project when we have a better handle on the construction activities being completed and there's money left over from allowances and whatnot, that's something that can easily be scheduled and rolled in at a later date. So there is a little bit of time on this one. If we want to hold off on that decision relative to the gym floor, obviously they're not going to be doing any of that work anytime soon. Just want to kind of take the temperature and see how people feel with the restriping and the refinishing of the floor.
We're still considerably over budget, right?
We still have, well, if the items that we go through that are either yellow or orange are all taken out of the equation, as it were, then we're right where we need to be. With the exception of the items in the red, which we know we're going to need money to accomplish towards the end of the project, or when we get to the point where we're going to need to pay for that. So those red items are items that are unaccounted for financially right now. On the last page, I reorganized the kind of the key a little bit, added a line item for the dollar value, the total compiled dollar value of the money that we will need going forward before the end of the project to account for those items in red that we decided to go forward with. Okay, so again, that decision doesn't necessarily need to be made tonight, but I'll keep a running tally if there are things that we want to kind of add back in, as it were. We'll update that accordingly.
So just to be clear, that's 76,000 then?
76,000 and change, 400, I think, yep.
Okay.
But that's just for the red.
That's the red items. There are 3 of them. The backstop motors, the additional 3 backstop motors, the VCT versus terrazzo discussion that we had previously, and the upgrading the gymnasium ventilation were the 3 that we had talked about so far. Okay.
So what's our alternative to doing it? Just leaving it?
Leaving the
Kind
gym
of-
floor?
Yeah.
Well, the gym floor gets routine maintenance on an annual basis. It gets basically scrimmed off and then, or screed off rather, and sanded, lightly sanded basically, and then refinished. It gets a new coating of polyurethane. What this is involving is actually sanding the floor down to bare wood, redoing the striping, and then refinishing the entire gymnasium floor. So it's a little bit more exhaustive process. It's a little more invasive process. Not to say that the routine maintenance that's already scheduled and presumably in the annual budget, this is above and beyond that, and it'd be outside of
I
that.
feel like we already talked about this, that it doesn't really need to be done yet.
No, it does not.
So then I don't think.
No, and that was part of the discussions, that if we were to go forward with much more scope in the gymnasium, then it would make sense to go forward with redoing the floor if we were going to replace the bleachers and so on and so forth.
Right.
Because that's not going on, this may not be money well spent. That being said, it is being maintained regularly on an annual basis to screen.
I mean, I think I would say wait's what needs to be done anyway.
Do we know how much floor we have left? Because I know you can only sand them.
Yeah,
How many
that
times?
floor, we actually cut a core through it to determine how much floor is left. I think there's at least 2 more sandings left in that floor.
Actually, I think they said one. There was one more sanding to be done, and then the floor, and then
they were
the other
talking
thing
about-
was that you're going to lose the life expectancy. Right now, we can hold on to this floor for a while if we don't sand it.
This is true.
Right.
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah.
And,
I
functionally,
feel like we have.
No
to
sand the
keep
floor.
doing
No sand.
I mean,
it. I don't.
functionally, the floor works just fine.
Yeah.
It hasn't had any major damage to it in
looks
the long
great.
term. The other thing with floors like that, it's what they call a concealed spline floor. They have the short 12-inch boards that are about 1 inch wide. They have a little groove on the inside edges of them, and there's basically metal rods that run through that groove, and that's how they put the floor together. What happens when the floor gets damaged, typically it's because of moisture, is that the wood swells, and then it buckles up, and then that metal bends. And once that metal is bent, it's dead. You can't really fix that type of floor. Now, that being said, it's been well maintained. It doesn't have any of those major water damage issues because of the other kind of annual maintenance activities. So it's in good shape. It's completely serviceable the way that it is. It doesn't meet some of the more competitive DIN standards for high school athletics and some of the physical athletic association stuff, but we're not dealing with that level of competitive play in the space. Not to say that it's not competitive, but it doesn't need to meet that level of standard, and it's perfectly serviceable the way that it is now.
Do we want to have a go-round with this one, or do we want to wait?
I would say if we can knock it off, knock it off. Right? We can just get out of it.
So we're going to eliminate that one for now? Okay.
And just for the record too, it is scheduled to be revarnished right at the end of school, August.
before the kids come back, so. Out of the general funds.
Do you use Fourth flooring for that? Or Murray Fourth for that? Do you? Yeah, he's the best around.
And he did it 2 years when I first started, actually. It wasn't done last year, but he did it.
Yeah, and Murray's really good at, we recommend him to most school districts because he's really good at kind of giving you a anticipated lifespan when he does that work. So, you know, you want to think about this in the next 5 or 10 years to do this floor, so on and so forth. He's the go-to guy. Good. So the next one on the list is A19. This is repairing the damaged bleachers in the gymnasium. This one is the one section of bleachers that has the section that's kind of fallen a little bit. When I had Kevin Valder from the facilities equipment supply out here to kind of take a look at it, it's not a safety hazard as it currently sits, but it's not going to get any better by itself. There are a few parts underneath that are basically bent that he can replace and fix, and he kind of gave me a ballpark of about $3,000 to do that. Frankly, this is a good one to do outside of a capital project because you're really not going to get reimbursed for that anyways, and it tends to fall more under the general maintenance and operations in the space. That's something that we can have him come in and do anytime to fix it if you deem it something that you want to do. Like I said, it's not a health safety thing right now, but it's certainly not going to get any better by itself.
Take it out of capital.
Take that off.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's something that we could do like next summer too, right?
Next summer, this summer,
January could be
it's
a break
something
kind of thing, right? So
yeah.
is that a day job?
Kevin actually is the one who installed these bleachers. So he was looking, we were out here, we were looking for some model numbers so he could confirm that and get the parts that he would use to fix it. But it's I can make a phone call at any point in time and get him out here to take care of it. And he's really the one to do it. There's not too many others that would.
Just to see if we have the money in our regular budget.
Yeah, we can definitely look and see if we can do that.
Okay.
Again, like Enval.
And again,
Yeah.
if you do, I can call and make a phone call and get Kevin out here to take care of it.
Awesome.
Okay. Item number A21, which is the next one on the list here, was the replacement of the bubble dome skylights. This is different from the skylight tubes that we had in the new edition. These are basically the existing skylights that are over the holes there's in the classroom or in the stairwells. There's a couple in the locker rooms. While they are completely serviceable the way they are right now, a lot of times when we do a major roof project or we're doing a large project, we replace those bubble domes. They meet all the current regulations that they have to meet. They tend to get a little cloudy over time. They're the better part of 20 years old now, but they could easily be put off at this point. They're not leaking, they're not cracked, they're not problematic.
So the roof work won't affect that?
No, we're not doing a major roof replacement during this project, so we could take the opportunity to do it while there are roofers here, but again, it's not something that absolutely has to be done. Not that we're kicking the can down the road, but it's kind of a if it ain't broke, don't fix it scenario.
Go on.
I think we can take that off.
Take that one out? Okay. Okay. A24 kind of falls in the same vein. The existing roof hatch and roof ladder, while again, it's completely serviceable the way it is right now. When we do work on a project, sometimes it's the things that we replace because they're either not working properly. The latch is a little sticky, but they tend to be that way, frankly, on just about every roof I've ever been on.
If I remember right too, we're going to have roof access.
You will, yep. So you will have, with the addition, we'll have direct walk-up roof access right out onto the roof, which will service the areas that we would have otherwise serviced via the hatch. So it's safer to begin with. Basically just lock it off and leave it closed. You won't need to actually use it, which again, the more you use it, the worse it gets, but they don't necessarily need to be replaced. So I think this is an easy one to take off the list.
Agree with that.
Take it off.
Okay, so the next one on the list is the alcove locker replacements downstairs. That also goes in conjunction with E19, which is the lighting replacement. This was one of the ones that we talked about potentially doing if we had money left over at the end of the project, or if we decided to allocate more funds in the project at a later date. Those two kind of go hand in hand. E19 was a total of about $7,250, and A28, which is the actual locker, is about $52. So you're talking about roughly $60,000 to do that scope at some other time.
We might, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Sure. You might have clarified this one point, I apologize. So the lighting is hand in hand, like the lighting couldn't stay the same with new lockers?
It could. It was kind of the situation where if we're going to do the work, we're going to tear those lockers out, and we're going to replace potentially replace the ceilings in that area, and take the opportunity to replace the light fixtures and get a little more light into those spaces. Because while they're not unsafe, they could be a little bit brighter. That was our kind of estimation when we first took a look at it. So that we would do those two together. They wouldn't have to be done together, but we would recommend that they were.
Yeah, my understanding is the condition of the lockers is pretty poor.
It is, and they get worse each cycle.
Each beating.
Each beating and each crowbar.
Yeah, each crowbar. One of the issues is that the size of the material being put into lockers in terms of coats and book bags and boots and whatnot during the wintertime. The problem is to go with a larger size locker in those spaces means less lockers. And that was one of the things that was like, well, we can't have less lockers. We don't have enough as it is. We are putting new lockers in the addition, but it's kind of, it's at the other end of the building. It might offset some of the difference, but I don't think it would completely offset if you went to those are 12-inch lockers now. If you went to 15s to get you a little more room, I don't know that you would completely replace the ones that you would lose with the ones that we were adding to new. So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword there as well.
But you could do 12-inch locker.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, we can replace them one
product
for
to
one.
product,
Sure.
yeah.
Yep.
I would like to see that stay in myself.
Yeah, I would look, if you're saying.
I would really like to see those.
Yeah, okay, then that's.
Yeah, not to be eccentric, but
You're probably dealing more with, the crowbar act, getting that crowbar down there.
I'm not very good at it, so
It's almost every period.
That they're having to pry a locker open.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's great.
Should we say for E19 too, for both, for lockers and lights? Is that what you want to do?
I think, if I heard right too, thank you for asking. The lighting also might be a little more recessed, right? 'Cause aren't the current fixtures wasn't there a concern they were a little bit
We
too
looked,
low?
we would dig into it a little bit more, but the issue, we could probably go back with a thinner style fixture, but the reason why those are mounted below the fixture is because the ceilings are so low, right? Or that there's a lot of junk up above the ceilings that precludes us from pushing it down. Now, we're not talking about an 6 or an 8-inch deep troffer type fixture, we're talking about LED fixtures, and they have low profile fixtures that can go back in, that could be more recessed, so kids aren't reaching up and smacking them or hitting their float bags and whatnot, which invariably happens. The lenses get knocked off, and that doesn't happen. Yeah, totally by accident, yeah. So that would be, we could definitely replace them with an LED type fixture that was lower read, that was tucked up into the ceiling a little bit more.
I think we're all on keeping both of them.
Yeah.
Especially if it could be a little bit recessed, just so that'd be great.
Right.
Because we do have a lot of accidental.
Accidental, how hot can I jump?
Exactly. And then shocked when the whole.
And it's kind of low, so even the middle schoolers are smacking them.
They win every time.
Feels good.
They win every time. So the next one on the list was the ADD2, which is the handicap operators at the bathrooms that SED required us to add. The number, the $40,000 number was to basically replace all of them in addition to the ones that we told SED we wanted to do. So this is the number to do all those fixtures. We need to do at least half of them, but like Kathy had suggested, we should probably do all of them. One of the issues is you may have handicapped kids or a kid who's a special needs kid or whatever the case may be in that area of the building one year, but he may be moving to another area of the building in another year. So I think that rationale certainly makes
Yes,
sense.
I just think, how can you determine what bathroom a child's going to be by? We never know who we're going to get. It's bad enough that there's no handicap accessibility on the outside doors. There's no buttons to push to allow anybody to get in that's in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
At least if they're in the building, they can go to the bathroom.
Right. Yeah, and not have to travel all the way across the building.
Correct.
Yeah. So in then on that one?
Yes.
Okay. The VEA5 is the next orange item there, and that was the paint in the gymnasium, which includes the ceiling. We had also talked about possibly just doing the walls and not doing the ceiling. That included the ceiling because we were talking about repainting all the ductwork if there was new ductwork in there at the time, but because we're not going to go forward with that, the ceiling doesn't absolutely have to be painted. We're just going to take the opportunity to kind of clean everything up in there. I believe, and I don't know this, I have to confirm this, and I apologize for not doing this in advance, the cost to paint just the walls was somewhere in the $7,000 to $8,000 range, just do the upgrades on the walls. I can confirm that. If we want to hold on that one, again, it's not one that we need to define tonight, because obviously that work isn't going to be happening anytime tonight.
I think we should do that.
Do that.
Figure out.
Yeah,
exactly
figure out
what
what
it
just
is.
the wall
Just the
painting is.
wall.
Yep.
We do have a year, so.
But won't it look bad then with, I mean, I've tried at home painting just the walls and ignoring the ceiling, and it just doesn't.
Well, in a space like that, you can paint clearly up to the issue with the ceiling is you got to paint all the structure and all the in between and everything else that goes along with it. It's not in terrible shape. It's not like it looks. It's not like it looks dirty or it looks unpainted or if it's just raw or whatever. You could do the whole thing, but in a case like this, I don't know that you absolutely have to. Frankly, I think it would certainly upgrading the wall paint is going to help tremendously. I don't know that we would change the color all that much, but just from a visual standpoint, upgrading that surface is going to help that space.
I'm not saying not to do it or to do it. I just want to know what the cost is both ways.
Yeah, we can break that down. We'll have that ready for the next meeting. Okay.
And I'm so sorry, you might have just said this, and I apologize, but if the price, I know right now the walls are white, they kind of, would the board have the option to maybe go like with if it would maybe make it pop more, so to speak, like with a royal blue, or would that be not possible?
I
or
think
more price? I don't know if it's even something we want.
We would probably steer you away from that, frankly. Going with a dark color in a gymnasium like that, it's going to make the gymnasium feel really, really, really small and dark. We've done it before, and I can tell you, it usually doesn't come out all that well. We've had some districts that are really insistent upon doing, we're green and gold, so we want the walls to be green and gold, and it's very, very dark. Now that being said, there are ways to do accents. Maybe it's a royal blue or GD blue up to a certain height, and then white or some lighter color to go with the school
Maybe
color.
that top strip that's peeling, then if it starts to peel again, it won't show so much.
We
Make
have to
that
put
a
it-
dark color.
Well-
Royal blue.
We can use those banners somewhere else. Cover it nicely.
We'll do more investigation, come back with a more definitive cost breakdown for that work. Okay.
When you're doing that, can you give us your suggestion on colors?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think there's there's an infinite number of options, but I think that doing a darker color low, and then doing something lighter up above up to the ceiling is probably the way to go. It would be my recommendation to go with something that was indicative of school colors, blue and gold and possibly white in there too. That's going to look fine, I think. We can mock it up if you want. It wouldn't be a hard thing to do.
Just to throw out there, I know in some gymnasiums they have it's mostly white, but it has like little speckles in there of the color. So you put the little. I don't know if that's a really expensive paint or not, but it also hides marking and stuff like that on the wall. So
it's like a fleck paint almost. It's there are. It depends on the. I'm trying to determine exactly what you're talking about, Eric. I think I know what you're talking about. I'm not 100% sure. We've used. We call it fleck paint. I don't know exactly what the technical name is, but
Yep.
They apply it and basically they shoot it to the wall surface. We used it on quite a few projects about 5 to 8 years ago. The problem with that is when it gets scratched, invariably it does. It's a hard surface, but when it gets scratched, it's very difficult to patch to match because you got to replace that speckle, and that speckle is so random when it goes on the wall. It's like you just can't get it to look exactly right, and always end up seeing a scratch in the surface. So if that's the surface that I'm thinking you're thinking of, we tend to steer away from it, especially in areas where it may be taking a beating, like a gymnasium, or it may get hit or get scratched or whatever. Usually not flat colors, but low gloss, neutral colors work best in big spaces like that. Again, there are lots of options. Keep in mind also that the lighting is going to be completely replaced in that space as well. The light levels are going to be much better, much higher in total. So it's not going to look, I don't want to say it's dingy, but it won't have that kind of bone white look to it. It'll be a little bit brighter. So I think what might make sense is to see what the lights look like once that space is in there, and then make a determination of whether or not you want to, what the color scheme wants to be once we can see what the actual light levels are going to be. Does that make sense?
I think that's
Okay. So the next one on here was the gym projector and the screen. I need to go back and check on this one because I thought we had included the screen, but I think if we were going to take away the projector, we were also going to remove the screen because those would be done kind of at the same time. We do have the provisions on the stage rigging to accept the screen. In other words, there is a tormentor there, or there is a dead hump bar to accept a movable screen in the future if you wanted to go forward with that. So we're not precluding ourselves from adding it. We're just taking it out of this particular point in time. That's a projector. Part of the reason why it's so expensive is because that long throw projector will be mounted to the far wall in the gymnasium and it has to project all the way to the other side. So those lenses become very, very expensive, and that's part of the reason why it's pricey. So that's one. I mean,
Why don't you look into it?
look into what
You said you weren't sure if it was something.
I gotta check and see if that's the screen and the projector. I'm pretty sure it is, but I want to just double check it. Okay.
Do that.
Yep.
Because I imagine that would be like a motorized screen, like something that came down.
It would,
Got it.
yeah,
Versus like
exactly.
versus something if we put up manually.
Precisely. No, this would be a motorized screen. Hit a button and it drops. Yeah. Okay.
We hope it comes with the remote.
What's that?
The screen.
The screen? There's a bunch of different ways you can do it.
Yeah, I know,
Just came up.
like at
What's that?
work, we have screens, you know, with the computer just hooks into the wall.
Yep.
And the projector, I guess, is coming down from the ceiling.
The way in gymnasium spaces, we typically put it on the far wall.
That's really far.
That's really.
Yeah. The other problem is when they go overhead,
target.
they are a target, and they invariably
Yeah.
get beat. They can put cages and things around them, but we've had better luck with getting them kind of on the end wall, usually somewhere behind the backstop, and you raise the backstop up. It can go both ways. It doesn't significantly change the cost of the unit. It's still, fairly long distance to get it across this space. The issue with the projectors in the center of the room as well is it's not a long throw lens, but I can't remember the exact terminology they use, but you're shooting at an object angle as opposed to straight now, so that lens has to be calibrated in such a way that it has to fill the screen appropriately.
And there's no other technology out there. You don't need like that projector, like the smart boards or. Like
Well,
the
yeah,
smart boards
there's
yourself.
LED visual displays, but
Yeah.
I don't think you want to. Well, I'll tell you, we're doing one in Ravenna right now. It's an LED display in their main lobby, and it's about, 10 feet wide, about 6 feet high. And they got a grant to do it and some other funding sources, but it's about $30,000 just for that one unit. And they can't actually play like movies on it like you would in a projector screen. It's more of a set software package that they use for that. So you can do anything you want, and there's certainly ways to accomplish that. I mean, look at Times Square. You see those visual displays, how huge they are. But they're very, very, very expensive. So there are other options, but the projector and screen is typically the most cost effective.
Now, with it being mounted, ceiling, wherever, what's the risk of damage from kids playing in there?
Well, they cage them. Yeah,
Cage it.
they get a cage around them. The cage is specifically oriented with an aperture in it so that it will fire through the cage without creating any problems there. If you get a kid who wants to take a basketball and chuck it directly at it, there's the cage will help, but I can't tell you that it's going to completely protect the unit. It's as with anything.
What about rear projection from underneath the stage out with the appropriate screen in front of it?
Yep, there's not enough depth.
Not enough.
Yeah, you need to have, it's roughly half if you split the space in half, it's roughly half again that space. We just don't have enough depth to be able to do that. Very few schools that we work with, and even performance spaces that we work with, have the ability to do rear projection just because you need so much depth to make that happen.
Yeah. It's just whenever I've been to anything, on the screen, the way we set it up, it's very difficult to see the screen anyway. So I don't know that anything we're going to do is going to make it better because the gym has got a lot of light.
Well, that's another thing that the newer projectors have a really high gain on the projector, which means that they will work and you'll be able to see even when the lights are on and when the daylight's on. They're designed specifically to do that. It's the older style projectors with bulbs and whatnot. They definitely have issues with the gain of the screen, being able to see it in light conditions. This is not that case. Even with the clear story that's there, the cow wall panels that are in that gym, you'll still be able to see the screen pretty well without having to, without having a different technology in there.
Yeah, to pose a question, and sorry if it was covered before, was if this was something that the board was looking to do maybe at another point, like for example, if we received a grant in like a bullet aid or would that be something we could do later on? Or
Absolutely.
It's not like the same, you'd still have the same requirements, right? It's not like this thing has to be opened up to do something or.
No, there's nothing that would preclude us from doing that in the future. To add that screen in or add that projector in. We've got the provisions in the capital project to be able to make that happen at a later date if you so choose to do that. So we're not shooting ourselves in the foot.
Just something to think about if maybe down the road if the board, when we get that piece, you could earmark it and say instead of it being just globally technology, we're going to do something to upgrade the projection system in the gym. That was something that was still a priority. Sure. Just a thought for you guys to think about.
What would we do down there? I mean, are we thinking about doing something that we may never use?
I got to tell you, I'm not sure if there's a reason. Movie nights, I guess, could be dinner. Parts for I guess you could do something with the show. I guess have it as like kind of a backdrop, but I don't know. Was there original intent? Do you think to have it?
I think the original intent, what we heard at the time was that they were wheeling a projector out in the middle of the gymnasium, plugging it in the whole 9 yards, and then projecting up onto the screen. I don't know how frequently or
for assemblies.
I mean, it was
assemblies or whatever
it was
the
up
case.
the night of graduation. Everybody should
Oh,
have
yeah.
seen the, they do it at every B assembly. They have the pull it all out.
Well, right, you wheel it on a card, you gotta set it up, make sure it's aimed correctly, it's never bright enough. Yeah.
What a good use for it.
Yeah, I will say that even school districts that we work with that are just having this technology for the first time, it gets used a lot. They once they realize they can do this and all they gotta do is plug a computer into it or throw a DVD in or whatever the case may be, they get used a significant amount of time. It's a whole other set of potential educational opportunities and programming that you can really take advantage of. It's they don't go unused, that's for sure. So I will check on the scope on that and report back. Okay. So the next one on the list was the M11, which is the mechanical ventilation and cooling in the faculty room and special ed 134. The discussion we had was if we were going to put AC in the faculty rooms, and then if that room was still going to actually be a special education room. And Tom, I don't know if you had any further conversations about whether that room was actually going to become a special ed.
The faculty room?
Yeah, no, this 134.
Probably has one of all.
For sure.
Okay.
As for 134, it's the downstairs. It's almost like the office suite where like Nicole Sinkins, Michelle Nicholas. It's kind of like a bullpen of Stephanie Carbone's in there. I imagine it will still be special ed space, whether it's exclusive office space and then that frees up other spaces is to be determined. Same with the faculty room. I see the faculty room down the road. We'd like to make that into instructional space because we could probably get away with one faculty room upstairs. Right now, the downstairs faculty room is only used a half an hour a day. So we could use that for something, office spaces or small group instruction. So, but if that helps. In terms of ventilation, I mean, obviously, heat's not an issue in there. It's always,
It's cooling.
It's cooling.
Yeah. It really comes down to how are you going to use the space now versus how are you going to use the space in the future, and if it makes sense to spend the money on upgrading those spaces now, if the use is going to change and or is it going to be required? I mean, is that cooling ventilation? Because for instructional, well, really, you don't really need it for any of the educational opportunities that you're going to be providing out of that space. There's no other cooling in any of the other spaces immediately adjacent to that. Sometimes you set yourself up in the situation where it's like, okay, so why do they get cooling and 2 doors down they don't? You get into a
Causes more of an issue.
it causes more of a problem. Yeah. Now, if it was a faculty room, that usually will justify the cost or the expense that you have ventilation in there or have cooling in there. Because it's not an educational space. But if you give it to one, then others are saying, well, why don't we get it? So That's an administrative thing that needs to be determined, in conjunction with this.
So you're suggesting, Dr. Berg, that it's not really, you don't see a need for it because
I-
you're going to be changing the use of the space?
Exactly. I wouldn't foresee, definitely our goal is to turn 137 into, not keep it a faculty room, and to make it, I could see it becoming more office space than anything, or workspace for faculty, and then that will free up other instructional space for, with students. So
Okay.
I think we'd be okay without it, because it won't be a,
Yeah, it won't be a heavily used faculty room.
right. And then it won't be a heavily used student space either. Right? If we could get a lot of office spaces in there, that would free up like areas up here and things like that, and new area for kids.
So out on that one, is that the general consensus? Okay.
The cruise?
Okay, so the next one is E12, and that's the LED fixture heads for the parking lot lighting. There's 12 of them at a cost of about $8,400. The current fixtures out here are, they're doing their job. The light levels aren't exactly where we would want them, but they're certainly not, failing on a regular basis and or problematic per se. It really just comes down to it's a more efficient, energy efficient solution for the parking lot lighting. If you were going forward with more parking lot area, or if we're going to go forward with more parking lot work, then it might make sense to roll that together. But because we're not spending a lot of extra time doing more parking lot work and reconfiguration of the parking lot, that might be one to save for a later date or do in conjunction with a parking lot project, as it were.
Or general maintenance.
Or general maintenance. Those heads can be swapped out really at any time. It's really just the head. They pop the one head off, they put the new head on, and you're using an LED fixture as opposed to a bulb. I mean, I don't want to. There are advantages. I mean, LED fixtures have to be replaced a lot less frequently than the regular bulb head fixtures do, and when they blow out, you got to get somebody up there to fix it. Whereas the LED fixtures, really, you hardly ever have to do that. Unless there's a problem with the driver in the head of the fixture, you really don't have to replace bulbs. So there's some maintenance and long-term O&M opportunity there. But again, doing that in conjunction with a larger project might make more sense.
Okay.
They're up to code?
Take it out.
Okay.
They're all up to code, right?
Yeah. There's nothing that, like I said, there's nothing from a health safety standpoint that would dictate that you do that now.
You know?
Okay. We talked about E19. Item number VE1 was existing wireless access points in the classrooms remain. This was basically a $40,000 line item to put additional wireless access points throughout the building. And again, aside from a few areas that probably could use an upgrade, wireless access points in every single classroom may not actually be necessary. I don't know how you feel about it, Tom. But
No, I would agree. I could probably think of, because right now, the current structure, there's probably 3 or 4 spots that need a boost, but I mean, otherwise, like for example, 6th grade, needs a boost somewhere. 2nd grade needs to be at least a fixture. But if I remember right from last conversation, the wiring will be there regardless. Right?
Yes,
So it's a matter of
that's
like
true.
we could put a few in now, but then if we decided that 3rd grade was getting weak, we could add that piece in.
this is
as part of
just
our-
the hardware. This is basically just the box that goes on the ceiling. All the wiring in each of those locations will be in the project, so you can basically go buy a wireless access point and install it, and you'll have coverage in that area. So we're not precluding you from doing that at any point in time. This is just not buying all that hardware at one point in time and including it in the capital project. There's not a huge difference in cost to buy it in the capital project if you bought it outside the capital project incrementally, aside from the fact that you're paying somebody to install it. Or working through BOCES to have somebody install it or whatever. But it's not a major lift to install a wireless access point, even for the people that are here doing your IT and your regular activities to install one if you had a spot that needed it. So the wiring is there, or will be there.
So the number that you have here, that's to do everyone in every room.
Correct.
So can you work with Tom and our tech team to figure out exactly what you need? I don't want to say take it out, because
Yeah.
it sounds like we need some.
Yep.
So can we maybe go, does anyone oppose going that route?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we can figure it
Yeah,
out.
almost a price per, because this is every every
Yeah, and
room,
I-
right?
and I-
Almost like a price per would be great, kind
As
of.
I recall, and I apologize, I put this together before, but I believe those access points are about $1,500 per location. That's the cost of that box. So we can put our heads together and figure out how many we, quote unquote, really need, and maybe put a price together just to do that within the project. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right, last couple of here. S4 was replacing the sidewalk panels at the media center entry. That's basically the ones down here that are cracking. They're not necessarily a safety hazard right now, but they're not going to get any better by themselves. It's not a huge cost to do it. It would be more cost effective to do it within the confines of the capital project because you've already got guys here doing that type of work. But it is, it's not a huge dollar value, but it is money that we technically don't have right now.
So, Tom, do any of those heave in the winter where they become a tripping hazard?
They do heave in the winter. I mean, they tend to somewhat balance out by the end of the cycle season, but I will say it does heave.
We did notice that as well. There is some heaving in that, especially over in that area, and that's part of the reason why they're cracking. And again, it's not a huge dollar value.
I think it'd be money well spent. I mean, because you do notice it. I mean, this year hasn't been
Terrible.
but you would notice it. I mean, definitely would. But.
So it sounds like we want to leave that one in.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the last one on the list is the crack fill and reseal of the bus loop and driveways. That's basically just resealing the entire parking lot or the bus loop rather, and the driveways around the bus loop. Not necessarily the parking lot per se, but we had about $52,000 in there to do that. It's again, a lot of times, and we have a hard time making the case to state ed that this should be aided within capital projects, and a lot of times they kick it back on the final cost reports that they're not going to pay for it because they consider that more general maintenance and upkeep, more of an O&M type thing. If we were milling and redoing the entire thing right down to base course, the asphalt paving, that would be one thing, but usually crack sealing and filling, that's part of the reason why it ended up on this list, because they may kick it out anyways and not want to pay for it. It's an unfortunate situation, but they're really kind of cracking down on that stuff. In days past, we would put it in and they wouldn't say anything about it, but it's a whole new ballgame up the hill right now.
Is this something we do regularly anyway?
I mean,
Every few years, I would imagine?
We do. I mean, like, for example, this year we will reseal, we'll not reseal, we'll restripe the parking lot, which does keep, at least there is maintenance, and they will sometimes fill a few cracks here and there. So it could be me. I don't see it as that bad out there. I mean, I don't notice it as being like atrocious in terms of cracks.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not. I mean, if it was atrocious, that wouldn't have said reseal. That would have said, grind and retop. I don't know if the sub base needs to be necessarily fixed, but it's a sealing thing. It's not a redoing thing at this point.
And we are set to restripe, by the way, at the end of this school year as well, just because those have worn down
Yeah, sure.
in the general fund.
Okay. So we've got a couple things we'll do some homework on and get back to you guys for the next meeting. Thank you for spending the time to go through the rest of these. That helps us guide the contractors a little bit. Yeah, sure.
Just got a couple questions.
Sure.
When we met before early on, there was talk about once we opened up that ground, that was like a variable of how much. So now that we're looking at, are we through that? Like, did we pass that? Is it like,
We're
ground
getting
level
there. I wouldn't say
through the woods
yet, but we're all systems operating in the right direction. We didn't run into any really dramatically unsuitable conditions down. Really, it's the bottom of the hill where the retaining wall has to bear on. It's really the kind of, we did our geotechnical. We did as much investigation as we could ahead of time. So far, that's all bearing out. We don't have any major issues with that. So we're crossing the hurdles. I wouldn't say we're free and clear yet. Until we start getting the foundations dug out around the perimeter of the building, and they start setting up for their form work and whatnot. Once we're out of the ground, really, then we'll kind of be past that big variable hurdle. Everything else is relatively in control. We have a relative amount of control over what's happening inside the building, and even with the new construction, we deal with the steel, we know how to deal with the concrete, we know how to deal with the roof. It's just, we can't see the ground all that well in some of these. So we're getting past that.
When do you think, when, is that like a month away? Is it 2 months away?
I think once they get the retaining wall in, which is probably gonna, once the blocks get here, that happens really fast. I would say within the next month or so, we'll have foundations in. They're gonna start moving pretty quick once that wall goes up. They've got to put the wall in, they'll backfill it incrementally, and then, I love his face. They'll backfill it incrementally, and then they'll dig the foundation, and we'll be all set.
I gotta say, I was surprised how many trees that they left.
So that's the property line. They're not cutting any trees on the opposite side of the line. I thought the line was a little further down that
Okay.
hill, but in actuality, it's you know, and it's hard to determine that once you're, you know, when you're in the woods there, as it were. But that's, you know, I was kind of thinking we should take a couple more of those. Just back into it with the bulldozer a little bit. But that's literally not on the school property. So they try not to cut trees down that are on school property. Not to say that they wouldn't mind all that much, but they can only really legally do anything on school property. But yeah, I was surprised too. I was like, holy cow, that's not as cleared out as I thought it was going to be. Which, you know, they actually bode well. You know, it's not going to be this big looming thing hanging out over the neighbor's property down there. So maybe a good thing. Okay. Great.
Sounds good.
Thanks for spending the time, guys. Appreciate it. And we'll do regular updates, and Kathy's come to the last couple of OACM meetings, which is really helpful because you're able to see it firsthand, and we're able to make some decisions, and then she can report back, so it's great. If any of the rest of you want to attend a few, that's great too. I'm more than happy to have you. Okay?
Thank you.
Good.
Thanks,
You want me to take
Dr.
it with me?
You'll make it offer, you don't want it.
Take it out for ice cream, will you? Bring it back.
Yeah. All right. Is there anything else I can get for you guys tonight? You good? All set?
All set?
Thanks. Enjoy the rest of the meeting.
Thank you.
Hopefully it ends up quick.
We're gonna lose our audience.
What's
know.
up?
We're gonna lose our audience.
Hey, now it's
No public comment, I guess.
Thanks. We'll see you.
Thanks, Ed.
Okay. 2.2, letter B, second reading of policy 5152, admission of non-resident students. Do we have to make any?
So there's one change that we were just looking at on the second page under children of district employees.
Okay.
It says non-resident members of instructional and non-resident instructors may be enrolled in the district. I think that's supposed to say children of non-resident members. Because we're not enrolling the members in the district, we're enrolling the children. It's just better.
Members doesn't sound right.
Exactly.
Sure.
So it's just a small
Children,
children of.
so that'd be a minor change, right? Children of the,
I don't think that's a major change.
I would agree.
Non-resident isn't hyphenated, is it? It shouldn't be hyphenated, should it?
Ah.
I don't think non-resident or non-instructional should be hyphenated. It's usually only hyphenated if the second word begins with a capital letter, like non-English or something like that, but I don't think.
Yeah,
that
so we
should
can,
be.
I agree. Could we take it out? Perfect. So it just leaves not, so read children of the instructional and non-instructional staff.
And then
Proceed, then we'll take out the hyphen of the,
And then that.
And then on the first
it's
page,
hyphen on the
there's-
first page, yeah. And numbers 3 and number 4.
And then above 1, it's there.
Oh, yep.
And then under transportation.
Yep.
So can we approve this tonight, or are we gonna wait till next month? I think we can approve
I
it,
think
right?
you can,
Second reading, yeah.
you can approve, I mean, these are truly minor
Yeah, it's more
changes, so.
grammatical.
Okay.
Sure, you're okay marking those changes.
Okay, moving on to 2.3, principal report. I don't see a principal.
She is unavailable tonight, but passes along kind of the same sentiments I would. The past, though we met 2 weeks ago, as you know, our everything's been marked with a field day, and the conclusion of the school year, field day, our wonderful graduation ceremony, and really just getting ready for the next school year. Scheduling, myself and Ms. Murphy and Dr. Harris are working on the master schedule as we speak. The K-5 is done. Will be, hopefully the 6-8 schedule is pretty close to being done as well, so that's a good thing. And that's good, popping students in and making sure that those are set, staff have their schedules, and we're ready to go.
Good. Are they planning a 6th grade orientation?
We are talking about that, and that's something we're hoping either to do, particularly with the locker piece, either as part of open house, or maybe like a pre-before school kind of thing, to make it nice transition.
What happened?
But actually, one of the pieces will be
A daddy long leg?
Go kill a bum.
Go kids.
Okay.
I like it.
2.4.
Oh, just a little point there too. Speaking of that, we'll be marketing also through the website as a middle school FAQ. Because one of those pieces, our 6th grade, as I might have alluded to in the past, our 6th grade class this year will run, though they'll be on the middle school schedule, they will run more of an elementary style day. So they'll be in the classroom and run almost a similar schedule to 4th and 5th grade, where they rotate for science and social studies, but they stay in the room for ELA and math. So that way there's more continuity for the instruction and also with the needs of the population. So they'll be downstairs, they'll have the same specials, family consumer science, phys ed, art, library, music, but they might, for periods 1 and 2, rather than rotating, they'll be kind of blocked to stay with the one teacher. So that there's a little more, they'll have lockers, things like that, but we're going to kind of unroll that in a different open house model too as well. So.
Great. 2.4, PTA update. I don't see PTA. I guess the only thing I know is that they abolished the PTO and they established a PTA. Beyond that, I'm not really aware of anything.
They have all their
Officers,
officers and
yeah.
everything, right?
They got 2 co-presidents, right? Vice president, treasurer, secretary.
Good. Hopefully we hear from them soon. Maybe you could reach out.
Absolutely.
3.0, appointment authorizations. 3.1, approve the CSE, CPSE recommendations as per attached. I need a motion
A motion?
and a second. Any questions or discussion?
Mrs. Castle?
I just have one question. I noticed that there's a lot of preschool students on here. Were they new to the district or just happened to be that the CPSE meetings took place at that, during this period?
They kind of took place in one big chunk of time,
Okay.
but the overall population hasn't changed in the past. But yeah, these were kind of all in one big grouping. Good question.
Mrs. Castle?
Yes.
Mr. Hirakawa?
Yes.
Mr. Lanicy?
Yes.
Mrs. Mack? Yes. Mr. Strang?
Yes.
3.2, second reading of BOE policies, 5152, admission of non-resident students. I believe we've already discussed it. We'll move on to 3.3, approval of Board of Education policies. We only have one, 5152, admission of non-resident students.
So
Motion, a second?
Motion.
Motion second.
Okay. Any additional discussion or questions? No? Okay.
Mrs. Castle?
Yes.
Mr. Hirakawa?
Yes.
Mr. Lanicy?
Yes.
Mrs. Mack? Yes. Mr. Strang?
Yes.
You notify staff?
Absolutely. I will do that tonight. They'll be very thankful and appreciative.
Have you gotten any feedback from staff as
Oh, yes.
interest?
Like,
Like
what's
hurry.
happening tonight? If you could let us know, that'd be great. So yes, I think very appreciative
register
staff.
our kids on Friday?
I think we'll have some news coming in tomorrow morning. So
See you in the
if
morning.
possible.
What
Enrollment will
about,
go up tomorrow.
Faculty that may have a child going into, I know one has a child that would be going into 3rd grade, which we know is our huge class. Is that going to be a possibility? Is that, if
Yeah.
the
It's not
interest
so
is
huge
there?
anymore.
You just read my mind. I was going to say, believe it or not, we have the only class that we tend to be losing students, and I say a student here or there, has been the rising 3rd grade class. Now, not massive amounts, but really for every student we've gained, we're hovering still in that one class right now is 25 and one is 28. So, there's some room. It's not like they're both, one's 28, one's 29, that piece. And of course, we're still providing the same level of support we did last year when we started out at 28 and 27. So that one particular person you mentioned, I think also, though, being a very conscious employee is weighing, because that particular child might not want to go to school here. Like they have there's a situation that one child might want to attend, but that child might prefer to stay in their current piece. But I don't think if they wanted to, that would preclude, though there is that caveat for the district to say, well, you've kind of pushed to a tipping point. I don't think we're there yet. It's not like we're at the 28-29 mark or the 29-30, so I think we'd be safely in that. And certainly if we ever got to that point, I think we could have a further discussion as a board of we need to add support resources.
Why are we losing kids from that class? Are we just moving out of the district or changing schools?
Like, for example, one is just they're spending next year abroad, so they'll be spending their full year. So just kind of unique little pieces. One child moved. I mean, nothing major, but just kind of a natural. It just seems to balance that particular class. It stays for, we're in that 29 group for one bit, and then it dropped to 28. One was 27 and went to 26. So it's just been kind of of all years, that's the.
None for reasons of any concern.
Oh yeah, nothing for class size. Just kind of we've seen a withdrawal. It's been a second or now a third grade student, and when we see an addition, it tends to be in the other cohorts. But again, I will say as another positive note, as much as that's kind of the one we've been watching, our current 5th grade group that's rising, that's a pretty sizable group itself. It's a 24, 25 class that over time will grow. And I mean, that's a good thing. I mean, that keeps our numbers hardy as they go through the middle school too. But so as much as that ones are larger, I wouldn't say the others are necessarily a lot smaller. They're in the 22s, 23s, now 24, 25. So that's business is good.
Keep those dollars coming.
Okay. 3.4, approve the disposal, recycle of 28 obsolete Dell desktop computer components / computers. Need a motion?
Motion.
Need a second?
Second.
So were all these wiped?
Great question. Actually, if I may just clarify one piece, and I may give credit also to our tech department, particularly Anthony Vecchio, who works through Questar. He has been a master at taking advantage of this. The state has a program where basically they'll release old computers for free, and if you claim them first, you can take them. He has been claiming those machines and then basically disassembling them and using parts from each machine to make a new machine. So basically, what you're approving is not necessarily 28 full desktops. It's 28 desktops. Some have nothing more than a hard drive that's been wiped in that case. Some have nothing more than the electrical components. But he's basically stripped everything of value from these machines and repurposed to make a whole new computer lab upstairs, actually. So those that went on the tour saw we rearranged the downstairs lab, and that's now repurposed computers, and now the upstairs lab will be the next generation of repurposed computers off in parts. So pretty impressive. But this is basically just allowing us to get rid of any components that really are truly obsolete. So, but again, if it is a hard drive, it's been wiped and it's been destroyed.
Mrs. Castle?
Yes.
Mr. Hirakawa?
Yes.
Mr. Lanacy?
Yes.
Mrs. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Strang?
Yes.
3.5, approve the disposal, recycle of 45 obsolete HP Elite pads. Need a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Same deal?
Same thing. If I may, the Elite Pad just never really took off in the computer world, and so I will say this is one where they were supposed to be kind of the touch pad, but keyboard based, almost like a version of an iPad. It didn't take off in the business world. It certainly didn't take off. We've taken as much as we can out of them, but you can't install software on the Elite Pad. It's kind of a unique, its own operating system. So we've used as much as we can. Some of them just plain are truly broken. But we've taken everything we could. We've tried, but I think they've just seen better days.
Mrs. Castle? Mr. Hirakawa?
Yes.
Mr. Lanacy?
Yes.
Mrs. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Strang?
Yes.
3.6, approve the disposal, recycle of 24 graphing calculators, obsolete or non-working. Need a motion?
Motion.
And a second? Thank you.
Same thing. These are the 24 out of the whole set. Mind you, there's many graphing calculators that we have throughout the building.
Mhm.
We're replacing some this year, but these simply do not work.
Okay.
So we've taken the batteries out. No recycle us.
Okay.
Okay. Mrs. Castle?
Yes.
Mr. Hirakawa?
Yes.
Mr. Lanacy?
Yes.
Mrs. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Strang?
Yes.
3.7, approve Amanda Barrett for 11.5 paid child rearing days with remaining days unpaid, returning when medically cleared on or around October 11th, 2017.
I'll motion.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Did she have the baby yet?
No.
August.
Oh, August.
It's like second week in August.
Mm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's
All right.
ready.
She's in the hot months.
Mm.
Yeah. Mrs. Castle?
Yes.
Mr. Hirakawa?
Yes.
Mr. Alanis?
Yes.
Mrs. Mack? Yes. Mr. Strang?
Yes.
And we'll fill that with a substitute, obviously, for the 20, it wants to be 20, whatever it is, 22.5 days. We'll fill that with a substitute. And she comes right back to work.
Okay. 3.8, approval of substitutes. We have quite a list here. I'm not going to read them all, but we have some certified substitute teachers, some substitute teachers' aides, substitute kitchen aides, substitute kitchen, substitute custodian, substitute recess, substitute clerical, non-certified substitute teachers.
And these are all returning.
They're all returning. Okay. Need a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions?
Mrs. Castle?
Yes.
Mr. Hirakawa?
Yes.
Mr. Alanis?
Yes.
Mrs. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Strang?
Yes, sorry. Work's blowing up. I'll put it away, Will.
So it's hot months.
Okay, 4.0, informational. Our next regular Board of Ed meeting will be July 20th, 2017 at 6 p.m.
Is that at 6 or is that at 5? What time are we having that?
Whatever works for you guys works for me.
That's the
That would be very
the
quick.
quick one, right?
Whatever works for you
Here's
guys,
the-
honestly.
Well, I'm supposed to be to work at 6,
Yeah.
but I know that for you guys getting out of work, it's hard, so, and a
Well,
couple of
I-
you are on vacation, right?
Yeah,
I'm
I will
on
be
vacation
gone.
that weekend.
You're on vacation the 20th?
Well, it's not vacation. I'll be working, but I'll be out of state.
I'll be sitting on the beach.
So it's the three of us.
Send me
right?
pictures.
So you can do a morning.
I could do a morning, or I could
and
do
you
like
I'm
a
up at
5:30-ish.
So can we do morning?
Yeah.
Sure. You can, honestly, it's whatever you guys want.
This
At
is
your
the
disposal.
agenda.
Are you coming
so
back
it's-
for the meeting?
Morning is, whatever works for you guys works for me. I just, as you can see, Sharon sent a copy of the agenda, so it's a pretty brief draft agenda.
Yeah, I mean, if we can do the morning, I can run up
Okay.
here, and then that way
Seven?
you're not, I'm not rushed to get here to rush you to get to work.
Right,
You know what I
right.
mean? I'd
Yeah.
rather go in
What time-
late.
What time in the morning?
Like
He'll be
8,
up early, he's got a baby in the house.
We're up late.
8 or 8:30?
Sure.
Okay.
8 o'clock. Did you say 8 or 8:30?
8 or 8:30?
Okay.
Either one. Let's do 8:30.
Okay.
I'll give my day a little.
8:30 on that morning?
Sure.
Is that okay?
So we're changing that to
That's great.
I can just let work
8:30.
know I've got a morning.
8:30 a.m.
8:30.
I'll just stay overnight from the policy meeting the night.
We have plenty of snacks.
That way I'm
Gum.
late.
4.2, Board of Ed retreat. We're teaming up with Brittenkill. We don't have a date here.
August 4th.
August 4th, from 9 to 3. Half of it's going to be at Brittenkill, and then the other half's going to be here.
We'll get some more details when Mike Ford puts that out there. With Tamarack's just waiting to respond to a survey piece, but they'll put out location, exact time. I think when Kathy and I met with Mike the last time, we went to like 11:30. What we'd probably do is just 9 to 11:30, we'll grab some lunch, and then just come back and work for a little bit on some goals. And
Sounds good.
sounds good.
Good. Our next meeting after that will be August 24th, 2017 at 7 p.m. And 4.4, opportunity for the public to be heard. We have no public, so I'm going to guess nobody wants to.
Can I just, there's a couple things I wanted to comment on, just to, it doesn't affect anybody, but 2 reasons why I love a small school. The 8th graders, and I don't know if anybody knew this, the 8th graders gave each of the kindergartners a book, signed. I just thought that was such a nice little thing for them to do. Each book had a couple, was written in by a couple kids. Hope you like this book, reading's cool. This was always my favorite. It was such a nice idea. And I don't know who to credit for that, but it was awesome. And then the second part, also associated with reading, is that and I don't know what grades it involved, I can only speak for kindergarten, obviously, but Mr. Newmar sent home a bag of books with the kids that they can come in and change and to encourage their reading during the summer. That is such an awesome idea. And I just
That's
think
awesome.
Mr. Newmar, deserves great credit for that because it's an awesome program. Awesome for the
Agreed.
kids.
And the therapy dog
Great.
is-
Just a few kudos.
No, really, truly, he's been fantastic.
Yes.
And at the 8th grade idea, I believe, I know the 8th graders took care of them on their own, but I believe, was that Liz Pendergast? That, 'cause I think 8th grade funds were used, fundraising opportunities, excess funds were used to buy those books for kindergarten, which is really nice.
That was just such a cute idea.
That is cute.
Really
I didn't know
cool.
anything about that. Yeah, therapy dog is coming to school 3 times this summer. Therapy dog came and visited 2nd grade. I don't know what other grades therapy dog visited.
2nd and 3rd, I think.
2nd and 3rd. So you could sign up for a 10-minute time slot. So Cooper is going to see, I forget which dog, that he gets to pet and read to on this next Wednesday, and then 2 weeks and 2 weeks. And that's when they can come in and exchange their books.
Right.
Is on those
Yeah,
days.
the boys are coming Wednesday.
Yes, so they might catch a glimpse of the therapy dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, they've got time set up to
And
do the
Cooper
reading
loves
too.
that, like, he hates reading, but he loves to read to the therapy.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's an awesome idea too. the
Yeah.
Therapy dog,
Yeah, it's very.
North Green Bush Library is doing it too. North Green Bush Library is doing it too.
Oh, are they?
Different times and dates. If you're
Oh,
interested,
nice.
you can call them and set up like your 15-minute
Oh,
period
okay.
with them.
Oh, good.
Mhm.
Okay, I'll let Caitlin know. My
Yep.
sister. But
Okay.
yeah, so cool stuff this summer.
I don't believe we have any need for executive.
Mm.
No? Okay, so we'll jump right to 7.0, adjournment. Need somebody to make a motion to adjourn?
Please. So moved.
Second?
Second.
Everybody's hands went up, I don't know. You-
Yeah. That was a vote, right? It was the right.
All those in favor? 8:31. All those in favor?
Think-
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.